Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. Today we are going inside the business of a quintessential Minnesota summer resort, Sugar Lake Lodge. We're here with co-owner Abby Oxborough. Abby takes us into the challenges of running a summer resort, why they've gotten into leadership programs and how to cultivate good leaders, and what it takes to keep a business like this in the family. You can subscribe to our page using the button below to get access to every episode. Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. I'm Charlie Ryback. I'm here today with Abby Oxborough, co-owner of Sugar Lake Lodge. Abby, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am very glad to be talking to you today. I'm going to start off with a tough question.
Ooh.
Where does up north start?
Oh, great question. At least 2 hours north on 169. So
Okay.
I would say Malacca-ish.
What about the other way, up 94?
You got to go past St. Cloud, even like another hour or two.
Okay. I think it's probably Baxter.
That might get some flack.
Yeah.
I know that's a huge discussion.
It is a huge discussion.
But I think anything less than 2 hours,
doesn't
girl,
count.
you're in the metro.
Okay, great. It'll all be easier from here. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay, so you run a quintessential Minnesota summer resort. So I want to kind of get into some of the nuts and bolts of how that works. So tell us a little bit about what Sugar Lake Lodge is, like what part of the market is it in and how is it different than the other summer resorts people know and
Sure.
love?
So Sugar Lake Lodge, we bought and built the property in the early 90s. We bought it out of bankruptcy. The property was completely dilapidated. I have this incredible, I was only 6 years old, but I have this memory of walking the property, excuse me. And there's a big outdoor pool and the water, had been in there for however many years that it just sat dormant.
How long it had been abandoned?
Since the late 80s. It actually had a big fire in the main lodge, and then the people that owned it just kind of gave up, didn't really want to put it back together.
So for years, it's just sitting there. It's in bankruptcy, and then your family says, let's do it.
Yeah, so my dad is part of the Ruttger family. We come from Rutger's Bay Lake Lodge. So the Ruttger, I would argue, and I think this is kind of understood in Minnesota, that they're the ones that really pioneered the hospitality resort industry in northern Minnesota.
That opened in the 1880s,
yes.
Right?
Yep. Wow. So my dad's great-grandfather is the one that started that, and then his cousin took it over. So he grew up in that industry, and we grew up with him to a degree. But at one point, he decided, I kind of want to take this to another level. So we opted to kind of push what a newer Ruttger's would look like. And that's where Sugar Lake came in, because it was this property that was available. And it was so, you could just tell, I just so vividly recall walking around and seeing it had a lot of good bones, right? But the lake is stunning. It is, it's up to 26 feet of clarity, and it's sandy bottom. It's just so swimmable and beautiful. And, we call it the Mediterranean of the Midwest, and I have trademarked that. You can look it up.
Love it.
I
won't say it out loud so I don't get in trouble.
I will sue people that try to take it away from me. But it's the differentiator is it's very small. We have 107 rooms, so we're not tiny, but the property is so conducive to feeling like you're just in this little place. There's it's a lot of nature focus. There's not a lot of concrete, and there never was. And I think the difference there is that it's just less, cruise ship feeling, and it's a little bit more modern aesthetic of, being in an actual up north environment. Yeah.
Well, we will put up a picture of the lake, because when I was looking it up, I was gobsmacked by how does it get that color?
Yeah, it's one of only a few lakes, especially in northern Minnesota. The other one is Deer Lake. That's maybe 6 or 7 miles north of us, that are spring fed. So it's actually got cold springs coming in through the bottom, and it's incredibly deep in the middle of the lake. But there are calcium carbonate compounds in the lake that come from the trees that are surrounding it. And we're actually one of the only lakes with a majority of our lakeshore that is unpurchasable. It is, honored in a more of a nature preservative piece by someone who used to live on the lake. So we actually have all of this land that continues to, foster the loons and the eagles. We have a huge eagle's nest on the lake that is just like incredible. Eagles are wild, big
That's
fan.
awesome.
So
when do they come back every year?
They're here. They came in early April.
Back in the nest?
Yeah.
Same nest as last year?
They do the same thing. And they're squawking big time right now. I think they're confused because they can't dive for fish yet, but they'll get there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I have confidence. So when did you kind of make the decision that you wanted to be working there full time, entering the ownership structure? How did that all come about, in part of this family business?
Honestly, later than you would expect. I am the youngest of 3. And I think if you ask anybody, they would say, Abby was the least likely to take over this endeavor. Only because I just had a hard time taking it very seriously when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, again, I was there when I was really young. So I was running around this like scrappy little frizzy-haired 6-year-old with there were people everywhere, and I got new friends every summer, and it was really fun. It was an incredible way to grow up. But at the end of it, I was like, this is nonsense. I saw how much my dad worked, and I'm thinking that is impossible. I don't know if I could do that. And then fast forward, I went through, doing a lot of different things in my 20s, and I did corporate America, I did all of that. But we came back, and I think hospitality has always been ingrained in me. It's a part of our literal DNA from the Ruttger family. And I watched how much value it gave my family and my dad that it just seemed like a natural next step for me. Yeah. And getting into it, the more I did, the more I loved it. And starting from the ground up, doing dishes in the back of the kitchen and helping with housekeeping and all of the stuff, and learning it from the inside out was definitely the part where I'm thinking, yeah, this is what I want to do. And, I felt like I was really good at it. So
great. One of the things you were just telling me about was, in that period of time where you were in your 20s, you traveled the world. Mm-hmm. You lived out of a backpack.
We did.
Tell me more about that. What's your favorite place that you traveled to?
We're so millennial, right? Like I quit my corporate job and lived out of a backpack. I think my favorite place so my husband and I used to travel together, working remotely. I would say this is such a standard answer, but New Zealand is quite possibly the most put together country I've ever experienced. Okay. It just everything from the nature to how quickly you can go from mountains to city to all of it is just, it's so well done. And I think the piece that I really liked about it was the way that they build and the way that they kind of procure what their communities look like has the nature aspect in mind first and foremost, right? And so I think I resonated with that so much. We ended up staying there for 3 months. I mean, as long as you possibly can for a travel visa, but we just kept coming back. We would go places and then we'd think, we should really go back to New Zealand. It's so wonderful. It's expensive, but it was worth it. It was beautiful.
So you're interacting with various hospitality businesses for years on end in a bunch of different cultural contexts. Mm-hmm. What, that nature example is one that sounds like you picked up. Yeah. What were some other things that you picked up along the way that you've been able to apply back to the lodge?
I love that. I think the small business aspect and the family owned business, from whether it was apartments that we were renting or, smaller bed and breakfast style things, we were just kind of naturally gravitated to the connection piece. So being able to get to know the people that really built the place that we were staying made all the difference, because it was so much more interesting to hear what their family is like and what their day-to-day experience is like, as opposed to just getting into a room, calling it a day, and then leaving and not having any more interaction than that. So I think that really taught me the power of bringing back, that interpersonal piece of it. And something that we get compliments on constantly is our staff is incredible. But what they really understand is that the ability to connect with someone is what totally differentiates your experience from a good one to a bad one. And also, like, just we have such a cool job to make people's day. Like, it's our job to make people happy, and I think that's like really undervalued, and it's really cool in the hospitality space. So I think about all the people that made me feel really welcome, for no reason other than like it was their job, but they were genuinely interested in who I was and what I was doing. And so I very much took that back, and to say that I want every person that comes through to have that feeling of being like really, really welcomed and genuinely, benefiting from being in that space.
Yeah. Interesting. So following that staff thing for a second, how many people work at the lodge?
So we're seasonal. We're actually in the process right now of getting ready for the busy season. So we go from about 10 of us throughout the off season. We bring in people here and there when we have groups in the wintertime, but starting quite literally next week, we jump up to about 90 people.
Wow. From 10 to 90,
yeah.
kind of in
a matter of
April, early May.
Yeah, okay. In a matter of about a month. And then they're there, we have 90-ish all the way through the end of September. If we can keep the college kids that long, we get them to come back in the weekends. But yeah, and then we come back down to about 30. So we do corporate events and associations and more group focused work after Labor Day.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely scale down and then go back into that 10, 15 person throughout the winter.
Hibernation.
Yeah.
Okay, so from 10 to 90, then kind of down to 30 for the fall.
Yeah, and we're very intentional about giving our staff, the ones that work consistently, time off. So November is a hard stop for us. We give them time to have Thanksgiving with their families and, go into the holiday season. And then we'll kind of pick up with groups that buy us out, to do exclusive use starting, end of December into January. And then we do January and February like that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So you're having to hire all these people every year.
Yeah.
And you're having to hire them for jobs where they're doing a ton of sort of interpersonal interactions, right? You can't really hire those people off of a resume, I would imagine. So how do you guys think about hiring, and how does that process work for all those jobs and all those people you have to bring in for the seasonal push?
It's a very interesting process. From high school, college to retirees, like that is our scale of who we hire. And to something that we implemented. So when I first came back in 2017, we were seeing that a lot of our staff was getting really bored with what they were doing. They were in one location. Like an example is working at the marina. You have 8 hours, you're pushing boats out, you're cleaning the pontoons, you're filling tanks, that kind of thing. But that's the rhythm. It's just that. And so with these young adults coming in, we wanted to give them the opportunity to like learn new things. And summer jobs are like a way to make money, of course, but it's an experience, right? So we designed, I call it the SWAT team, and it sounds really aggressive. They don't like walk around with guns or anything, but they are cross-trained in every department. So they are bouncing around from the marina to the golf shop to the pool attendant to what we call guest services, where they're running shuttles and delivering and they help in housekeeping. So it broke up their day to kind of pull them where we needed them. And also scheduling became like so much easier because it was very focused around pulling people in when we needed them. They didn't need to be specifically one department.
So actually getting them cross-functional allowed for you to staff a little bit easier and better and more
exactly.
flexible.
And they were much more willing to like interact with each other. So that was the other part that we saw, that they'd kind of come to work and then they would leave and there wasn't much culture. So that was the huge focus for me, was bringing them all together and actually getting to know each other. And so what it essentially did was make it kind of it's a coveted position to be on the SWAT team. And so when we're interviewing and, chatting with people, it's pretty easy to see if someone is, just kind of in it just to check a box. I just
Yeah.
need this job because I don't really want to do anything else. And then there's the people that are like, I've heard so much about this. I really want to learn this. I've never driven a golf cart. I would love to learn. And so those people that are willing to put themselves out there and say, I don't know a lot about this or this. That's kind of what we prioritize, is being able to give them this skills building opportunity. And then they leave with, various random things that they become somewhat experts in. And also, a guaranteed person that can give them a reference or, help them with a resume letter. So we kind of follow them into adulthood if they're young adults and anybody else that needs help with that kind of thing. So it's more of a program instead of just an employment position, essentially.
That's really cool. That's really cool. One of the things that I think is really interesting about a business like this is that, you guys are obviously a family business on the ownership side,
Yep.
but then you're also probably sort of a family business on the consumer side, like trying to get people to come back year after year, bring their families, maybe even multi-generational.
Yes.
Like, what is some of the stuff that you do to cultivate that family consumer side business stuff?
Yeah, we have multiple families they make it an annual thing. And if it's not annual, they are very quick to say, we can't come back next year. Can you block our dates? Yeah. Prioritize us. I think the way that we have really cultivated that is becoming part of what it is that they do when they're there. So we do a lot of personalized, events and activity kind of things. But instead of, guiding them through stuff, they kind of come to us and say, we want to have this barbecue. We want to do, a fish fry. Can we, utilize some of your staff? Can we use you? And also, can you come and be part of it? And so Tim and I have, multiple, it's like our calendar is set with all of these families that are coming back. And it's almost like dates. Like we have, okay, Friday night, we got to go hang out with this family. And then I'm pulling the kids water skiing on Saturday because they've asked, we did it last year and I want to make sure that I can do it for them this year. So we're so involved in everything that they do that it becomes this friendship, family, dynamic that is I don't know where you would find that anywhere else. I'm sure people could, figure that out, but it's not that we feel like we have to do that. It's genuinely that we want to. It's so satisfying and gratifying for us to really be part of what they're doing. And of course we give them space. I'm not staying in their rooms at night, but we do see them at dinner and, we're around constantly. I think it's that interface, difference that really brings them back so they actually feel like they're welcome as opposed to just a transactional number. Thanks so much for coming. See you next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should start sleeping in their rooms.
I think I will.
That's a great idea.
Just come to Sugar Lake Lodge.
Check it out.
I'm in the closet. Is that weird? It's too late.
Okay. I want to get into how you guys make money. But before we do that, I want to get into the whole leadership program and space that you guys have launched. So can you take us a little bit into what was the decision behind launching that? What is it?
Yeah.
And how you made the decision to kind of move in that direction.
Love it. This is my happy place. I've worked in leadership development and team building for a long time now. It started when we were traveling. Some of the schools that I worked with, I found that I was much more valuable with the leadership as opposed to being an actual English teacher. So I had all these opportunities to kind of work with them in communication and development from the inside. But the resort for years, so when we first opened up, we were known for a community leadership program that ran multiple cohorts per year.
This is from the start.
From the very beginning. So it's been in our DNA, and a lot of the property is designed around that team aspect and the development learning. So we have spaces that are very specific to not just meetings, but the ability to get outside and do multiple things in the learning space. So, learning about this and kind of getting myself involved within this time frame, we partnered with, they're called the Prouty Project out of Eden Prairie. an incredible organization that does development and strategic planning for various organizations. And we ended up partnering with them to develop different cohorts that we run throughout the year. They also come up with their clients and participate in very, customized strategic planning, team development, leadership development programs. So that started to build, and that relationship has been incredibly wonderful. I think we're on like season, or no, I don't know, number 10 of our
season. It has some good drama.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. We're like a reality show.
Yeah.
I think we're on, like cohort 10 with that. It's called L3, and it's leading self, leading others, and leading the business. And it's
others business.
It's a completely customized leadership program. So that is an example of the multiple programs that we're running. But how it came to be was we started calling it the Leadership Lodge because people would come up, organizations would come up year after year, and we're designing these programs for them that are completely customized to their outcomes. So we, not only the Proudy Project, but we partner with various facilitators that have a specialty in communication or crisis management, employee retention, that kind of thing. And they're getting an experience within the resort that you quite literally can't get anywhere else. We've got a PAYCO-style ropes course that we utilize if and when we need to.
You don't have to do the ropes.
We don't have to do the ropes course. A lot of our programs are based in experiential learning. I got my master's during the pandemic, which was super fun, in experiential education and leadership development. So everything we do it's interactive. We don't sit in a meeting room and stare at PowerPoints, which is, thank God. Yeah. I quite literally cannot. But so it started to kind of take off this is something that we are really, really good at. We understand from an internal perspective too, what it means to build leaders from the inside. And so I think what organizations, especially right now, are so hungry for is this connection piece with their teams. But it's hard to know what that looks like and how to design it. And everybody's so strapped for time and the ability to actually design something like that, which is where we come in. So we have the conversations with the organizations in, what they're struggling with, and we can partner them with people that really specialize in what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And they come up, and we do it in a retreat style, of course. 2 to 3 nights typically is what works really well. But we've done day events, we've done workshops. Going forward, we've got multiple cohorts that are coming in. One of them focused around hospitality, actually, and how that is a key point in really retaining staff and building leaders, because it's a resilience piece to be able to work in hospitality. So,
do you, when you're thinking about how to make sure you're capturing the best aspects of leadership, are there people that you look to as mentors or examples for you to bring into the work?
Absolutely. This is just off the top of my head, but Allie Kaplan, working with the Star Tribune, she has a really great newsletter right now that I think it's capturing more of the emotion on what people really want to focus in on in their careers, as opposed to these metrics and what are the results and what are we getting done. I get so excited when I can read stuff like that, because it's so tangible. Of the most recent one was about introverts being better listeners. And that is something that listening is something that we teach and we talk about consistently within leadership groups and executive teams, because it's with the age gap of who's in the workplace and Gen Z coming into more leadership positions. It's like this confusion of like, are you professional enough? Are you not? And then millennials are like, I want everybody to be happy. Like, why are we all arguing? Let's make it work and make it go forward.
As a millennial, that sounds very familiar.
Right. Yeah. You can't help it. Yeah. You're right in the middle of it.
How do you teach somebody to listen?
Great question. I don't think you can teach someone to a degree, but you can give them opportunities to experience it, right? So a really great example is if you think about, like, for you as a podcaster, right? Your ability to land a plane in a conversation and also bring it back around to what that conversation was about maybe 5 minutes ago that's a technique that you have and you don't even realize it. So when you're in meetings and there's a lot of information coming at you, we need to do this. This is our ROI. We have KPIs. We have blah, 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 blah. Leaders are looking for what it is that the outcome is, but also let's bring it back around to why are we here? It's a reflection piece. So really understanding that this conversation has come to an end, but also you brought up, this earlier. How does that connect to what we've just talked about? And that's a clear indication that listening is a priority in being able to really connect the dots, as opposed to that sounds good, let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, how are you reflecting on what it is that you're really there to teach and not to teach, but to understand within the context of the meeting that you're having or the interaction that you're having. So it's that cognitive ability to bring it back around to what the point really is. And I imagine you're pretty good at that because you can hold conversations pretty well.
I don't know.
I'll give you a test at the end.
I think I'm learning things about myself during this. This is great. We hear from a lot of people in the business community who feel like there is a lack of leadership in government right now and wanting better leadership and more leadership. How do you think we could go about cultivating that? Finding better leaders or cultivating the ones that we have now to just take more of a positive leadership role for our state.
It's so hard. It's debilitating when you think about it. There's so much that we feel like we need to be able to do or to change. And like, where do you even start, especially with government, right? Something that I always come back to is your community, your very geographical community is the best place to start. How are we supporting each other? How are we, offering services and interacting with the people that directly affect you? I always go down this rabbit hole of like, there's so much that we can do. There's so much we can offer. Can it be statewide? Can it be countrywide? But really, the most impact is coming from the community that you live in and your ability to, be supportive, to offer your time, to employ people that, wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to really experience new things. So to me, I think that's the only way that we can actually start to provide change, is to put ourselves out there and actually get involved with the things that are going on within our immediate communities. Minnesota is tough too, because we have such a connection to both northern Minnesota and the metro, through everything that this state has endured this year. We're kind of in a balancing act where we want to support everyone that, we're surrounded by, but we have so many friends that run restaurants and run hotels down here that, we're kind of split and we want to do a little bit of both. So to bring that back around in a listening exercise.
That's good. Wow.
I think the best way to procure really meaningful leadership in our generation is to start small. I don't see any other way for us to really build that momentum until we actually start putting effort into the places that we're in every day.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So if you were to take, say, the few leading candidates for governor, governor's race this fall, they're each going to come to you for 24 hours.
Sure.
How would you structure that day to help sort of cultivate them as leaders?
I love it. Great question. So first of all, we would all sit down. Let's have breakfast right away. You got to be there 8 a.m. No one's late. We're going to sit. We're going to talk about the expectations of the day. Here's what we're doing. Here's what it looks like. And this is what you're going to take away. I think like the communication that I've learned, especially with leaders in organizations, is there's so much time spent thinking about the future. Like we're, 5 years, 10 years. the present day and the challenges that you have right now are the most critical. So what does the state of Minnesota look like right now? What are our priorities in the next 30, 60, 90 days? Because if you're going to come out and you're going to tell me that we're going to change this by next year, I think Mom Donnie in New York is a great example of someone who utilized this like communication tactic and saying, it's really important that we address things that are happening right now and then we act on them. So it's almost like the ability to do what you say you're going to do, which a lot of people just don't think that they have to do that right away. So, all right. So we started at breakfast. I got derailed. We're at breakfast. We're talking about the 30, 60, 90 days, right? I think we're going to go into a session right away that is focused around listening and communication within all of the communities in the state. So who are the people on the ground that you're getting information from? We're going to list them out, give us examples of who are they, what are they doing, how are you going to support them and get information from them. I think the only way for someone that's leading our state to really understand and be successful is knowing exactly what it looks like on a molecular level, right, of what they're actually working on. So we're going to list that out. We're going to talk about ways that you can interact with them. Are there new ways that we can reach people like the new voters, Gen Z? What's the after Gen Z? Gen
Alpha?
Alpha?
I think. Yeah.
Are they old enough to vote yet?
I'm too old to know the answer.
But they'll
to that
get there,
question.
right?
Yeah.
So
at some point.
I think focusing on what the future of our state looks like is the priority. And there's only so much that a facilitator can really push in that and saying, this is something that you should consider. It's more about opening up that conversation and saying, what are we doing that's really going to benefit and include the upcoming generations? And then we're going to have lunch, of course, because food is like priority.
Critical.
Turkey sandwiches, cranberry mayo.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
French fries or maybe chips.
I'd go fries, but
And are you an iced tea guy or lemonade?
I'm not.
Neither.
I like lemonade if it's very hot out.
Are you a
tea,
soda person?
Not as much. Not
okay.
really.
No, same.
I
LaCroix?
like a disgusting amount of coffee, water.
Okay, good. Coffee
LaCroix.
we can do, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Just curious because I think that makes a difference.
It says
right?
a lot about who you are as a person. I think.
So we do that, and then I think in the afternoon it's all about outcomes. Tell us what it looks like when you're faced in crisis. What does it look like if another recession comes? I think giving examples of these, really important, not panic moments, but somewhat chaotic environment possibilities is a great way for leaders like that to showcase how they're staying calm, how they're utilizing resources. I think Minnesota specifically is so in need of someone that understands. We just need someone that really is involved in everything that's going on and can see it from both a big picture and a small picture scenario. I just really took that and ran with it for a day.
That was exactly what I was hoping for. No, that's great. That's great.
And then we end it with dinner, right?
That's good.
And a bonfire. I just want to make sure.
Great.
I got to paint the whole day.
S'mores as well?
S'mores,
okay.
Always.
Great.
Definitely.
Okay, so you guys have these leadership programs.
Yes.
You have obviously cabin room rentals. Mm-hmm. You have golf.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about how your revenue pie is put together.
Sure. So it's interesting. When I get asked, what percentage of our revenue comes from, the leisure market of families, couples staying throughout the summer, that's Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's when we offer those reservations. And then the rest of the season after Labor Day, throughout the winter, aside from the month or two that we take off to do time off and upgrades, all of our maintenance, that's all corporate, all association, group focused, exclusive use. So before the pandemic, groups were about 75% of our business.
Wow.
So, and that was before we even pushed the Leadership Lodge, because with cohorts and returning organizations, businesses, it was a huge piece this exclusive use that really pushed our revenue and like our resources into focusing on what we did really well. We didn't need as much staff to run those functions. A lot of what we were doing was, it's all included in the price of what these groups are utilizing, which is I'm learning is a unique way to do it. There's a lot of things are add-ons in different places, and we just kind of package it all together because we're small enough that we can do that. But then the pandemic hit and it shifted like crazy because, groups weren't getting together, of course. We lost 100% of our group business in 2020. It was one of the most traumatizing experiences.
And that's 75% of your revenue.
Yeah.
At that point.
It just gone. Like I remember the phone calls coming in of like, we're not coming, and don't book us for next year. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is it. Like we made it through the 2008 recession before I was even involved, somehow. Right. And I kept thinking if we could make it through that, we could do anything. But then COVID hit and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like, we're done. I was like, let's grab your backpack, Tim. Like we're going to Europe. Like, what are we doing?
New Zealand.
Yeah. Or New Zealand specifically. But then it kind of turned in our favor. And I say that lovingly and not in a way, I'm not gloating about the pandemic by any means. It was awful.
You survived.
We survived. Yeah. And honestly, we thrived. We are a place that even when you're there and it's 100% occupied, you kind of feel like you're on your own because everybody's doing their own thing. It's perfectly spaced out. We have units that line the golf course. And then we have hotel style rooms adjacent to the lodge. And then we have these beautiful old original cabins right on the lakefront. And every room and every space is really independent. They're just kind of on their own. So we were a perfect spot for COVID because people just wanted to get out. Like it was so overwhelming and overstimulating. And once they found us, it was so many new people that just gave us a try because we were still attempting to operate and a lot of places weren't.
In 2020?
Yeah, it was really hard. So we were like, we're just going to go for it. Like we'll do whatever it takes. Everybody's in masks. We've got, panels in front of the front desk and like, what a wild time.
Yeah. That's the panels.
I know the plastic panels.
Yeah. You probably did.
The sneeze guard. Like,
Yep.
So, we pivoted as quickly as we could. We prioritized, the natural aspect, right? Because nobody could be inside. They didn't want to be, and you're in these pods. And again, it's like PTSD, but, we built we doubled down on our bonfire pits. So in every unit has a designated bonfire pit. And we cut so much firewood. Like I was jacked because I was actually like cutting firewood on a daily basis. And everybody had that to themselves. And then they had kayaks and paddle boards that they could utilize. And we built these mini docks that sit right over the water. If you go to the website, you can see. And they're like these very coveted spots that people will, they'll go and you're like in your own little blissful place. And they're perfectly spaced out. We had to however many feet you had to be between people. But it skyrocketed and people loved it. And we loved it because it was manageable. It wasn't overwhelming. And we were sold out that entire summer. And then it was people that had experienced us for the first time and were like, I can't believe I haven't been coming here because it's just such a personal experience. Yeah. And so they kept coming back. And so all of this to say that our revenue has really gone from this duality of 70-ish% to whatever. And I think we're more on that 60-40 where leisure is really running a lot of it.
That's
consistently.
60% now?
Yeah.
Wow.
And our reservations are every weekend is sold out at this point. Because it's returning people and they want the dates that they want and they're very specific about where they want to be. And we cater to that, but we've gotten really good at getting people into, times that midweek is always hard to fill for anybody. But it's just become a need for them to get away for longer than 3 to 4 days. So we've got a lot of week-long stays that are just pushing that revenue up a little bit.
Wow.
I will say, though, with the push of the Leadership Lodge, this year especially, and last year, because we've kind of just started to like talk a little bit more about it, is pushing that back up. So we're getting to a pretty even differentiation between the two.
So just to try to capture all that, before the pandemic, you're sort of 70-ish% these groups and corporate business. After the pandemic, you go to closer to 40% from that.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
And the sort of summer visitor business grows a lot. And now the summer visitor business at a higher baseline. And now the corporate stuff is coming back up as well.
Yeah. And I think the corporate stuff is it's gonna push out a lot of the revenue from the leisure market, because we're opening a lot more in the wintertime. So we've got groups that are buying us out in January and February. And they're taking the space to themselves and doing very, intricate leadership development and team building stuff. So the ability to like bring that month in the dead of winter is unheard of at this point, because arguably, I don't think a lot of people want to come up there in the winter, but we've done a really good job of figuring out ways to make it accessible and fun and really, conducive to what they're hoping to do and what they want to accomplish.
Yeah. So there's an interesting bit of the pandemic decision there where you guys are building docks, you're buying kayaks, you're buying paddle boards. There are a bunch of capital expenses in there that had to have been kind of scary. I mean, how did you make the decision to say, now's the time when we need to go in and we need to spend money? And did you guys take out a loan? How did that all work?
All of the above. Okay. It was terrifying. Yeah. We did a lot of things ourselves. So we've got some incredible people that work with us and for us that are absolute masters at building and being creative. So fire pit stuff, wood cutting, that was literally me and my dad and Tim.
Wow.
Like we were outside digging holes. We were trying to adjust and like fix some of the paddle boards ourselves. I learned a lot about engine repair on things like pontoons and golf carts specifically. So the capital expenses really came from trying to continue to do upgrades within our units. So the property is aging incredibly. There is no way around it. Those golf course units had been there for a while. Some of them we built. All the other units we built, brand new, the lodge and the hotel style rooms. But that was the late 90s, right? So we're getting to this point. Actually, there was a review recently where somebody was like, she came for one night and she said, if you're really looking for like a 90s chic situation, this is like 2 years ago, a 90s chic scenario, this is the place to go. And I was like, I can't decide if that's a compliment or if you're mad about it. Because like vintage is back, first of all.
I like 90s chic.
I do too. Yeah. It's like lovely. It's
if you're out there, please write back and let her know.
Let us know. But so we took that as like we knew that a lot of this needed to be upgraded and updated. So for, the past few years, we've put so much time and effort into brand new beds and bed frames and furniture and all this stuff. But so back to my point in COVID was we knew we had to get that stuff done, but it was quite literally impossible. And I think the beauty of the leisure market was they understood where we were and kind of what we were dealing with, that like new things were just not an option that year because we didn't even know if we were going to break baseline.
So if you guys are open, that's great.
Right. That's
whatever's there.
The bare minimum.
Yeah, right.
Like we're running a restaurant. Like it's very unlikely that we should have even done that. But I think the reason that we got through it was that we just did whatever it took. We didn't have as much staff. It was all of us. I mean, Tim and I were working all day, every day, because we didn't want the staff to be uncomfortable. We didn't want, we're putting ourselves in harm's way in order to make sure that like we can make this continue, but also ensure that their safety and their interest in being here is like forever. So, we definitely took out a loan. We got a lot from the PPP for our staff and our payroll. But again, we were scaled back so much that it really ended up being helpful to get a lot of that paid back from a small business standpoint, that we could actually put some of our revenue from that year into things like we had to redo the pool, which would not recommend, 0 out of 10. And especially in that going into 2021, like supply chain was down. So we ended up having to take out another business loan in order to do stuff like that. Like we don't have investors. We don't have, capitalists coming in to offer this. We're not a corporate entity by any means. So everything that we're generating, we're putting back into the property. We don't take dividends. We don't give out owner, what's the word I'm looking for? Money, essentially, at the end of the year, which would be, me and my dad.
Yeah.
Never have and never will. It's just, it's not about that for us. It's the community, and I'm more interested in the property being the best it can be.
Right.
And that's kind of our mindset from COVID.
That's really cool. Really cool. The expenses part of the business is also really fascinating because I would imagine just you have lots of capital expenses, and then there are things that you just can't do during the season.
Yes.
You can't go fix up a cabin.
Right.
You can't go close the pool down for 2 weeks.
Mm-mm.
So how do you plan out? I mean, what is the time horizon on planning out? Here's how much capital we have. Here's what needs to get fixed. And I would imagine you have to plan well in advance on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you guys do that planning and expense process?
It's very well managed. I'm kidding. It's such a crapshoot. Oh my gosh.
Something broke, we fix it.
Yeah. Something's broke, we fix it. The fact that we are family owned and it's all of us doing the dirty work, essentially.
You're digging holes.
Yeah.
You're doing fire pits,
I'm
changing the oil.
Pulling up toilets and replacing them. We do start, like, we have an ongoing list, of course, of, wants, needs, priorities. And as the season, goes on, like last year's a great example of getting toward the end of the season, and we're really focused on our restaurant, Otis's, which is where the golf shop is, right by the pool. That's an original building from the early 70s. Actually, it might have been earlier than that, but we've only upgraded a few pieces of that throughout the years. So that building is like, I don't know what's going on in the foundation. Very scary. So that is something that we continue to kind of prioritize in small bits. And then once we have, a piece of it that we feel like we can put a significant amount into, that's when we really, trajectory wise put in money into a project. But, as the season comes to an end and the groups are coming in, we've got some time spots that we can actually, rip up a bathroom, get it, somewhat fixed and replaced, and do this kind of thing in 2 to 3 days, because we've got, we have an incredible community of people that, from electricians to plumbers, to the construction company that we work with, that really, they drop everything for us, which is really, it's incredible. I can't possibly express what it means to have relationships with people like that, especially in a small town, because you're supporting each other, and it's like people that bring us Christmas gifts in the winter, and we know their kids, and kids play hockey together and that kind of thing. But the big thing is trying to get all of our priorities listed out, monetary needs. Does this require a loan? The big thing we're doing this year that we started planning last year, and this is kind of what that looks like, is a big building right outside of the pool with changing rooms, bathrooms, and a space for, snacks and drinks and that kind of thing. It's hard for me to justify working on the pool because the lake is like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And so I tend to kind of push that priority because it doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
But I know that it's important to other people. So I'm like, okay, fine. You can have a bathroom at the pool.
You can have your
pool
snacks.
You can have your pool snacks and towels.
Yeah.
So we started talking about this, forever ago, but last year we really put in a timeline. So if we want to do this, we need to get the bid by the fall. We've got, the winter to kind of clear the space and prep what the foundation is really going to have to look like in the spring. And then come March is really when we start bringing more staff back to help with the landscaping and, depending on the weather, of course, which they're like shoveling snow still. And so that project is kicking off because we're not going to be using the pool for a couple weeks now, but ideally we can do that stuff within like a month's time frame. And we of course try to do it before groups arrive, which is in 2 weeks. So we're not quite there.
Off to the races.
Yeah.
So you talk about sort of you guys existing in a couple different worlds, northern Minnesota, greater Minnesota, and then having metro connections through just being down here and knowing people. There is this sort of geographic divide in Minnesota right now. What are the things that you think people in the Twin Cities misunderstand about people up near the lodge? Or don't know or should know?
I think there's a misconception of the ability to do things really well. I think there's this, you hear up north and you're like, okay, it's your grandpa's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
We're fishing, we're hunting, and we do to a degree. But there's a lot of creativity in northern Minnesota that I think is often overlooked. Duluth and the North Shore are a great example of where some incredible, artists and musicians come out of. But specifically where we're at, it's rural tends to get this, perception of being just undervalued and really maybe not as smart is what I'm trying to say. And I would argue that it's the complete opposite. There are some really incredible people doing incredible things. Grand Rapids right now, we're right outside of Grand Rapids. We're technically Cohasset. It's like a township, but Cohasset, Grand Rapids, right?
So you identify with the Grand Rapids area.
Yeah. But our Chamber of Commerce has a brand new president. Her name's April, and she has put so much effort and an incredible amount of time and energy into highlighting small businesses. So she's doing really, really great job of empowering people because it's hard to really get your name out there and, understood what it is that you provide when you don't have an incredible number of resources. So I think our like scrappy, like, backwoods nature or like perception makes a lot of people, not everybody, I think a lot of people think that there's not a lot of intellect in that. And it really is, it's quite the opposite. Another friend of ours, Amanda and Kyle, just opened the Pines restaurant in Grand Rapids, which I know he was recently nominated for the James Beard Award. And just knowing that those are the types of people that are in our community working really hard to bring Grand Rapids onto a bigger map of saying, we've got incredibly beautiful lakes and the nature is unreal, but we also have these people that are cooking really good food and hosting really great leadership retreats.
Yeah.
So
that's great. What about the opposite? What do you think people, up near you misunderstand about people in the Twin Cities metro area?
It is, you're right. It's like this weird, like, it's like a class divide almost.
Yeah.
Like you think that, there's this conception that the North can't hang with the South, or you know what I mean?
Which I hate because
it's silly.
I love all of us.
Yeah, I know. And like your question at the beginning of like, where does northern Minnesota start? I think I say it jokingly, like, you got to go at least 2 hours to really get that fresh air.
Yeah.
But I think people find both areas not as accessible as they think it is, where I got to drive 3 hours south to go to a Twins game. Like, it's actually quite doable.
Yeah.
And the people in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area are so incredibly resilient and welcoming and supportive. And I think it's just a matter of putting yourself out there and like actually trying to find those people.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I think about a lot in leadership, in, trying to make connections. And we spend a lot of time in the metro, going to functions and celebrating other people.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find really interesting is Northern Minnesota feels more like nonchalant, right? They're like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. And down here, it's very chalant. Like, we're doing this, we care about it, And it almost makes it okay to do that from a Northern Minnesota perspective, to come down, and be a part of something and say, oh yeah, I am really proud that I enjoy this type of music, or whatever.
Oh, I see.
And so to be able to bring that back north and say, like, I'm really excited about this, whatever, and not in like I got to keep it close to me kind of way. Just being it's really cool to care at this point. You know what I mean? Did that make sense?
Yeah, it did. That's cool. That was a great answer. What has it been like working with your dad?
Ooh, I knew we'd get there. It's been honestly wonderful. I am like, I know from a family succession standpoint, it's not always easy.
I don't think it ever is.
I know there's just no way that it's flawless for anybody, right? But my dad and I are so similar. We think a lot alike. We act a lot alike. There's a picture of us in like identical outfits. We just came to work one day and we were wearing the same zip up and hat. And I was like, oh my God, I'm turning into you.
It happens to all of us.
It's so,
really regrettable.
It happens
wild. To me all the time. I don't care for it. That's how it is.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But he is truly one of my biggest inspirations. He's been a mentor my entire life. So supportive. And to watch him do what he does and do it so well is like such a motivator for me to do it, to bring that legacy forward and like really do it with integrity. There are times that we absolutely don't see eye to eye. But the communication is really good between both of us, I think, from like both a family and a business standpoint. But it's very rare. We don't, there are times that he'll call me and be like, I just realized that I think we should do this instead of this. And I'm like, it's so funny you said that because I already changed it. Like, I didn't even ask you. I just did it. And he's like, I knew that would happen.
It's a little mind melt.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. I think the person that it might be hard for more so is my husband, because he's just, he was thrown into this like full family business. And he's wonderful in everything that he does. But it's a weird balancing act, like, trying to appease your father-in-law while your wife is like kind of your boss now. And like, so I think that dynamic is probably more of a challenge for him. But I think we do a good job of being very specific about those boundaries and turning it off when we go home. And, we spend so much time with my parents and they get to hang out with our kids. And it's really cool to be in his atmosphere, my father's, because he brings people together so naturally. And, I love learning that from him. And he's like a great example of someone that like nothing is impossible. Like, and we're going to figure it out. So I think that mindset really helps us like actually get along when we're trying to do things. Yeah. There is a piece of like, he's got so much knowledge in his brain, that at some point I need him to like offload that. Yeah. There are things that I don't know and I can't find out if he doesn't tell me. Yeah, right. So we're struggling with that right now. We'll get there. Yeah. And there are holes to be dug and toads to be replaced and stuff. So it's like, hey, can you tell me everything that you know? Right. And why do you know that? Like why'd you make that process, or who do you know that does that? It's just, it's like instinct for him. So trying to get there is quite the challenge to really like be on that level because he's got, 40 plus years of knowledge and experience. So,
I want to touch on something you said, you want to be able to bring that legacy forward.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So it's kind of two parts. I think the Ruttger heritage weighs on me a lot in both a good and bad way. Because I see so much of that experience and hospitality knowledge being something that people really gravitate toward. And so I want to do right by that. But also, my dad has kind of carved out this space that is very specific to his personality of being really caring, being very flexible, especially from a small business standpoint, family owned. There's not a lot of red tape. So we can make decisions on the fly that we don't have to run by other people, which is what a privilege, right? Especially after being in corporate America. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can do things. You can do things you want to do. So I see the relationships that he's built with this like Rutgers hospitality mindset kind of infused in there. And people really respect it. And he's very, very well respected. He's very, has always been, forward thinking and he is the most empathetic in every scenario. This is so silly. Instagram is like my whole thing right now because I've been told I have to do more social media. But so someone asked me if I would start giving away like tidbits that Fred has, words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I call them Fredism Fridays. It's very alliterated. So, but what it's forced me to do is kind of look back on the things and the ways that he goes at situations or challenges. And he's just this consistent calm to the point where nobody has an issue coming to him with something because he's very, level-headed. And so I think the legacy that I want to bring forward is his mentality and his approach to things, because it makes the resort what it is. We're so approachable. We're very, personal, very interconnected. And I don't ever want to get to the point where it feels like I'm, sitting at that 30,000 feet view. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. You're high up.
Yeah. And I'm not interacting, or I'm delegating things that I could easily do. He is involved and everybody's involved. That's the whole culture of this place is we are in it. We are interacting. We are doing everything all the time. And so that is my motivation is to bring that forward, while supporting community and other small businesses and organizations. And, he's just brought such a really, really personalized experience to that place. And no pressure. I'll just do it. No problem.
Start with a couple Fredism Fridays.
Yeah, Fredism Friday. I know it'll take off. Yeah. I know it for sure.
It rolls right off the top. Yeah. Sticking on the topic of family a little bit, you kind of grew up in this property.
Yeah.
And now you have kids of your own.
Yeah.
What has that been like? Have you, A, what has it been like? B, are there things that you're now understanding about your own childhood that you didn't before you had your own kids?
For sure. This is quite possibly it's so exciting for me to see my kids grow up the way that I did. Every season, every summer when I was younger, the staff would return, right? So we would jump up to that 90, 100 person, and they would remember me and they would bring me things. And, I felt like I had this huge family, which was so fun because I'm a lot younger than my brother and sister. So I was kind of like a second born first child, you know what I mean? Yep. And so being able to like be independent, but also have all of these people that I could rely on, Like they taught me to drive stick shift, and the maintenance guys taught me, they helped with my golf swing. And I tried to run away once because when you're 8, the world is too much.
Got to get out there. Go to New Zealand.
Gotta go to. Got my backpack. I'm going to New Zealand. The groundskeeper found me on like number 13 across the road, and he's like, where are you going?
So you didn't even make it to the 18th hole?
No, I didn't make it to the 18th hole. He brought me back and got me a smoothie. So
and then you were like, I think it's good here.
Maybe I'll stay. Yeah. And a chocolate bar. I was like, okay, fine. But that is exactly the experience that my kids are going to have, which I think is so full circle for me. It was so fun. It was challenging because you're like, we quite literally lived. So the main lodge there's a unit below called the Asplin Suite. Mm-hmm. And it used to be a 5-room apartment, 1 bathroom that our family lived in. It's right down the stairs from the front desk. So every morning when I would get up and go to school, I'm walking through the office, saying hi to, Shannon and Sarah and all the people that are doing their work. And I'm like, I'm just going to school. I'm sure they at multiple points were like, you're not going to wear that to school, right? So I had a lot of moms in my life, but being in that space was like such a goldfish bowl. It was like everybody knew what I was doing. Everybody knew where I was. Yeah. Everybody knew everything about me, which was a little unsettling. Yeah. Especially as a kid. And then as a teenage girl, ugh.
The last thing you want is anybody to know
what
you're doing.
I was like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
I'm running away to the 13th hole. So that was really tough. But now that I look at it, of course I took it for granted, but I had such a great experience growing up there. And I see the value in my kids interacting with new people, getting that socialization. They also have this kind of innate ownership of the place. So my 4-year-old, he doesn't say that we go to work. He's like, okay, have a good day at Sugar Lake Lodge. Like, he knows that that's where we're going. Awesome. And we've started doing, we have friends that come out to golf and all this stuff. But in the evenings when we're, kind of winding down in the summer specifically, we spend the entire evening before bed at the resort. So we're at the beach, we're at the pool. We're golfing a lot with a lot of the people that are there, and they're at the restaurant, and we're just kind of interacting and wandering around. And I think the part that I love that they understand it, that this is like our home, this is our business. They're getting there, Sugar Lake Lodge. Mm-hmm. But I also like that they see that me as a woman is running this place. Yeah. So like the amount of things going on all at once, they're learning really quickly that women can really do that. And it's my job, but it's also something that I really enjoy and I value. And I love that they get to see that firsthand and experience it. I think that's really something that I definitely didn't take in when I was younger, but I see it now.
Are you the first woman in your extended family to own?
Yes.
And this is how many generations back to the Ruttger?
Oh, yeah. That's like 6 generation-ish. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So about 4 to 6.
Do you feel any sort of certain sense of pressure or anything with that that goes into that for you?
A little bit, yeah. It's also, there are times when things come up or issues that happen that a lot of times the only thing I can think of is if I were a man, I wouldn't be dealing with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a really hard thing to reconcile. But it also kind of, my personality is like, if that pushes me, I'm like, bring it on. Like, let's
use it.
Yeah, let's use it. But I think the pressure piece is, trying to understand how to do things the way that, really represent our family and, the roots that we came from. But also, I see this as an opportunity to kind of change that a little bit, that this like baseline professionalism of like very status quo, very, cut and dry is just it's not who I am, and it's not who I think we are. Yeah. And so I have found that pushing that a little bit kind of puts me in this the space of my own identity and my own kind of spin on what this is looking like. And I think I think people are resonating with that. It's really approachable. It's really, we're very personal. I have no problem, acknowledging when I did something wrong or, made a terrible choice. But that's because I have my staff is the most incredible support system on the planet. So knowing that you have that to fall back on, and also the culture that we've created is just, it's really empowering. And so I feel more comfortable to be myself than I ever have, because I think people resonate with that and they want to see that, especially in a world where everything is like so, well put together and AI generated. And for us to be a little bit kind of off the cuff and not as, cookie cutter is critical.
Just letting your humanity kind of shine through in your leadership.
Yeah. Huge part of it.
That's really cool. Okay. So people are listening to this. They're thinking about making a trip up the summer.
Yeah.
Make the pitch.
All right. So here's what you're going to do. Yes, it's highly recommend, at least looking into us. I think the part I like to promote is I don't think we're for everybody. I think there's a really important difference between trying out a place that feels right as opposed to looks right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, we have beautiful pictures and beautiful videos, and we really do have a beautiful space, but we are not a 17-star resort. Mm-hmm. We very much, put effort into our spaces to be comfortable and accommodating, and our food is outstanding. We put a lot of effort into food, because you already know this, because I just talked about like breakfast and lunch for like 10 minutes. It's that experience. It's so critical. Our coffee is like insane. I'm not even telling you more. It's just really good. You're going to want to taste it.
Try it.
And I think it's really hard to say that we are so much different than any other resort. We offer so many of the same things. Everybody does such a great job at perfecting what they do. So from the Brainerd Lakes to, North Shore, everyone has their specialties. And I think ours is really that personalization where, we bring people in to feel like they are meant to be there. They're welcomed. And we want to have a good time. We're here for fun.
That's great.
So
that's great.
Did I sell you?
I'm ready.
I saw you on your phone
here and just get
booking while I was talking. Yeah.
One other fun similarity that I want to bring up, we both have 1-year-olds.
We do.
Can you share where your 1-year-old's name came from?
Yes. Our newest child, George, was named by our eldest. When I was pregnant, we kept asking him what the baby's name was going to be. And we were kind of like trying to push him in a certain direction. Like maybe we had something, but he kept calling him George, and it became a joke. Right. And then when this baby actually came to be, we asked Roddy one more time, what should we name him? And he said George. And we were like, okay, kind of love it. He does look like a George. He was very like old manish. Fast forward to like a couple weeks later, and we're watching Peppa Pig, an incredible show. Okay. If you're not there with your 1.5-year-old,
shout out
ready.
Peppa Pig.
It's incredible. And Peppa, the older girl, is talking to her baby brother, and her brother's name is Baby George. And I looked at Roddy and I'm like, did you name George after Peppa's brother? And he was like, yeah, of course. I'm thinking, oh my God. So for George's whole life, he's going to know that he was named after a cartoon pig.
That's pretty great. Well, George, whenever you're watching this, now you know.
Now you know where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
He really is a George, though, so it works.
That's awesome. Any other advice you'd like to impart on people who are in similar situations to you, either in a family business or in the hospitality business, that you think is worth passing along?
Sure. I think hospitality, especially, I have this desire for people to understand that the service industry and people working in places like, that are very specific to hospitality have this innate ability really meet people where they're at. So you're coming in for coffee, feels like it's not that big of a deal, but to them, it's really understood that you're either making or breaking someone's day. And I would suggest kind of putting that mentality into the world of, we're all just doing the best that we can. And when you're thinking that you're frustrated, or this restaurant isn't, delivering your food on time, or that's not the room that you booked something else. I always say, in situations that don't make a lot of sense, what else could be true? Is there something going on that you haven't thought about? What's going on in the back end? What's going on in the kitchen, essentially? And I think that mentality, especially from a leadership standpoint, is a really good focus in, bringing the humanity back to leaders. And I mean, if we could get that in every aspect of our world, our government leaders too, to think about other people and what it looks like for them, even if they don't quite understand it. I think that's my advice, is to really put effort into the people that you're either working for or working with.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much to Keely Doyle, Allie Alt, Gabe Noah, Connor O'Neill, and Mike Novak for all of your work behind the scenes. We will see you next time.